Imagine a man who rises from a tiny, poor village and becomes the leader of one of the most powerful criminal empires in the world. A man who escapes high-security prisons, outsmarts governments, and stays ahead of the law for years. That man is Joaquin El Chapo Guzman. But how did he get so much power? How did the DEA, Mexico, and the United States chase him for decades? And what did it really take to finally stop him? This is not just a story about crime. It is a story about power, corruption, fear, and a war that changed history. Today, we will explore El Chapo's beginnings, his cartel's rise, the DEA's methods, and the dramatic captures and escapes that shocked the world. Before we start, don't forget to subscribe to the Narco Files and like this video to support more real story deep dives. Early life, humble beginnings. Joaquin Guzman was born in April 1957 in a small village called La Tuna in Badiraguato, Sinaloa. He grew up in a poor farming family where life was hard and money was always short. School was not easy to reach, so he left his studies at a very young age. In that mountain region, many young boys ended up growing opium poppies or marijuana just to survive. The rough, hidden land of the Sierra Madre made this work possible. Guzman never imagined that these early steps would lead him to become the leader of the Sinaloa Cartel, one of the most powerful drug groups in the world. The rise of the Sinaloa Cartel. In the late 1970s and 1980s, Joaquin Guzman started working with older drug traffickers who taught him everything about the business. He learned how to move drugs without being caught, how to bribe officials, and how to hide shipments in smart ways. By the mid-1980s, he built his own network. Reports say he helped move huge amounts of cocaine, heroin, meth, and marijuana from Mexico into the United States and even to other countries. The Sinaloa Cartel used tunnels, small submarines, planes, trucks, and heavy bribes to keep business running. When the big Colombian cartels weakened, Mexican groups like his quickly filled the space. At its strongest point, U.S. officials called his cartel the most active drug smuggling group on the Mexico-U.S. border. His nickname, El Chapo, meaning Shorty, soon became known around the world. The DEA enters the game. The DEA has spent years trying to stop drugs from entering the United States. They track shipments, go undercover inside networks, arrest traffickers, and work with other countries to control the flow. For them, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman became a top target. His huge network and power were seen as a serious threat to American communities. But the fight was not easy. Corrupt officials, strong local support for the cartel, and the challenge of guarding long borders made the mission very difficult. Corruption and double lives. One of the most shocking parts of this story is how corruption made everything harder. In Mexico, many officials, police officers, and even politicians were bribed or threatened by cartels. A major example is Genaro Garcia Luna, who once served as Mexico's top security chief and worked closely with the DEA. He was later accused of secretly helping El Chapo's cartel by allowing safe routes and giving them important inside information. This shows the fight was never simple. It wasn't just good versus evil. It was a mix of power, fear, loyalty, and huge amounts of money. First capture, 1993. Joaquin El Chapo Guzman was first arrested on June 9, 1993 in Guatemala and then sent to a Mexican prison. At that time, his cartel was strong, but not yet at its peak. His capture looked like a big victory, but the cartel kept moving, and Guzman still held influence. Even behind bars, he used bribes and loyal supporters to maintain power. Escape and re-emergence. Guzman's escape on January 19, 2001, from the high-security Puente Grande prison became one of the most shocking moments in Mexico's history. Reports say he bribed guards, used hidden tunnels, and even slipped out in a laundry cart. Once he was free, his power grew quickly. He rebuilt his cartel and took advantage of weak rivals. For the DEA, he became an even harder target. His escape proved that catching a leader doesn't end a cartel. The network keeps moving. The step up in the DEA's efforts. With El Chapo on the run, The DEA stepped up efforts and worked closely with Mexican authorities. They watched his movements, infiltrated his networks, tracked money, and monitored tunnels used to smuggle drugs. A key part of their plan was to intercept shipments and gather evidence strong enough to hold up in U.S. courts. Interestingly, Guzman even tried to negotiate with U.S. officials while in prison. In 1998, he offered the DEA information on rivals in exchange for leniency, but the deal never happened. This shows how complex the drug war is. Sometimes traffickers try to become informants, and the law must carefully decide what is real without compromising justice. Recapture in Mexico, February 2014. After years on the run, El Chapo was captured again in Mazatlan, Sinaloa. The Mexican government called it a major victory, and the DEA praised the teamwork. But the Sinaloa cartel didn't disappear. Instead, it adapted, changed strategies, and kept running its operations. This showed that catching even the leader of a cartel does not end the drug trade or stop the organization's power. Final capture, January 2016. On July 11, 2015, while waiting for his sentencing in Mexico, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman pulled off one of the most dramatic prison escapes in history. He dug and used a tunnel around 1.5 kilometers long that ran directly under his cell at Altiplano Prison near Mexico City. The escape was a huge embarrassment for Mexican authorities and raised serious questions about prison safety, corruption, and whether it was even possible to keep cartel leaders behind bars. For the DEA, it proved once again how clever and elusive Guzman was, and showed the urgent need for strong international cooperation, careful planning, and smart intelligence work to finally stop him and bring him to justice. U.S. trial and conviction. After being extradited to the United States, Joaquin El Chapo Guzman faced a huge 17-count indictment in the U.S. District Court for the Eastern District of New York. The trial included testimony from cartel members, secret recordings, financial records, and evidence of cartel operations. On February 12, 2019, he was found guilty on every count. In July 2019, he was sentenced to life in prison plus 30 years and ordered to forfeit over $12.6 billion in illegal earnings. Guzman is now held at the maximum security ADX Florence prison in Colorado. The verdict was called a major win in the war on drugs, but experts warn the battle against trafficking continues. Why it matters beyond one man. The story of El Chapo and the DEA is important for many reasons. First, it shows the power of organized crime. One man and his cartel could move huge amounts of drugs, bribe officials, and influence communities on both sides of the border. Second, it highlights the limits of law enforcement. Guzman escaped multiple times, and corruption made it clear that arrests alone can't end the drug trade. Third, it shows the importance of international cooperation. Capturing and extraditing him required close work between the U.S. and Mexico, but the process also revealed how fragile such partnerships can be. The human cost is enormous. Thousands of lives were lost in Mexico due to cartel violence, and American communities suffered from addiction, overdoses, and crime. Even with Guzman in prison, the Sinaloa cartel continues, adapting with new leaders, tactics, and smuggling methods. For law enforcement, the fight is ongoing, showing that capturing one leader is just part of a much bigger battle. Lessons learned. From the story of El Chapo and the DEA, we can learn several important lessons. First, leaders of cartels are replaceable, but the system behind them continues. Removing a kingpin helps, but the network survives unless the structure is addressed. Second, corruption weakens law enforcement. When officials are bribed or make deals, the rule of law suffers, as seen in the Garcia Luna case. Third, intelligence is more powerful than force. Tunnels, hidden labs, and money laundering are stopped through careful data collection, surveillance, and infiltration, not just raids. Fourth, crime crosses borders, but international cooperation can make a difference. Fifth, root causes like poverty, weak institutions, and lack of opportunity must be addressed for lasting change. Finally, public awareness matters. Media and storytelling influence policy, funding, and international action, helping the fight against organized crime. Human stories and impact. Behind the numbers are real people. Families in Mexico lost loved ones to cartel violence. Communities in the U.S. suffered from addiction and crime. DEA agents worked every day in dangerous conditions. Even people in Sinaloa had their lives shaped by the drug trade, whether they wanted it or not. This story isn't like a movie. Things were messy, and motives were complicated. As we hear about El Chapo and his cartel, we should remember the human side. The pain, the choices, the power, and the heavy cost. A look at the future. So what happens next? El Chapo is behind bars, but the Sinaloa cartel and other groups continue operating. The drug trade keeps changing, with fentanyl, synthetic opioids, new smuggling routes, and cyber money laundering. The DEA will keep working, but the fight needs new strategies. Preventing drug use, reducing demand, strengthening institutions in source countries, and tracking money internationally. The story of DEA versus El Chapo may have reached one chapter's end, but the larger battle against drugs is far from over. Conclusion: the true story behind the DEA versus El Chapo is not a simple fight between good and evil. It's a story shaped by power, corruption, borders, and a dangerous battle between law enforcement and one of the world's strongest drug networks. It shows how a man from a small, poor village became a global name, and how the DEA and Mexican authorities worked together, struggled, and learned to adapt. Even when El Chapo was finally captured, the cartel world didn't disappear. The work continues. So ask yourself, what does justice really mean in a world like this? And can one arrest truly change a system this big? If you enjoyed this deep dive, make sure you like the video, subscribe to the Narco Files, and share it with others who want to understand the real stories behind global crime. Your support helps us keep telling the truth.